So good evening and welcome to the social media show with myself and Annie. And we're going to be talking tonight about several topics in relation to social media and our expertise. And we're both, over the years, have been involved in quite a number of groups. So one way of attracting an audience is by building your emailing list, but certainly a second way, Annie, is to build a group.
Yeah, I mean, it's an easy and fast way to engage with your audience. So, I mean, building the list is crucial, but you may have a little bit of trouble engaging those people and making them to reply to your emails and stuff like that. With the group, it's relatively easier in that respect. But I think both of them has its own place, and groups are very sort of, useful in terms of creating this community feeling and creating this active and engaged group of people who are around one general topic or one general passion. So it's easy to sort of, get together and share your thoughts and anything related to what you're interested in.
Yeah. So each group needs a theme or a passion. I mean, the group that I started back in 2010 was the people who another social network was closing, so everybody left that one, and we just started a Facebook group. And we've been together 6 years now and doubled in size, and everybody knows everybody. I think that's the thing about a group, isn't it? Everybody gets to know everybody.
Oh yeah. It is. It's and especially if it's a closed group, then people feel quite safe. So they tend to share more. They tend to interact. There is no tension in the communication. So it's always nicer when you are having this closed group of people who have been selected with certain criteria. Like, for example, I have a closed group for my podcast listeners. Yes. So, I mean, only they can see the group's link because, it's in my show notes. So most probably they have either listened to my podcast or gone to my website to see these links somewhere in the show notes. And it means that they are my podcast listeners. So if they have found my group, then most probably, they are the ones who I want to get inside. So that's like my criteria of the things. Yeah, I mean, it's very nice. It's actually, once you're having a really big group, it's a little bit difficult to control and to keep, spam free and stuff like that. So it takes time.
Yeah, we can agree on that. I mean, most of the time you can check out the people before you let them in.
Well, I mean, it's as I said. I mean, in my case, if they found it, then most probably they are who I want them to be. Yeah. But for example, I'm administering Pat Flynn's Facebook group, which is his first Kindle book group. And I've been in this group since it was just opened, and now we are over 14,000 people, I think.
Right.
And we are about, I think we're just 5 admins there, making it clean and safe. So yeah, it takes time. I mean, you already kind of, while you see the requests, you more or less can predict who these people are. Like, there are obvious fake profiles.
Yeah.
There are some whom, you see that some have many friends in the group already, so it's safer to let them in. If there are some issues, you can always kind of, ban them later on. So, if you don't know whether you let them in or not, usually I do. And later on, if something arises, then you just, there's always a way to just ban them and kick them out. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, the number of rogue or trolls who arrive is very small, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it depends. For example, this group, Pat Flynn's group, is about Kindle books, and it's for Kindle book authors and mainly self-published authors. So the biggest problem usually is self-promotion and, all this promotional stuff about their books, about their their book is free, or check out my book, or please leave a review, or, stuff like that. Which is Pat has certain rules pinned on the top, which says what you can do and what you can't. So basically, it's very easy to monitor and delete the ones which are not relevant to what we are saying. So if it's just promotion, we usually don't let it in there. But if it says, my book is free today, but also I found out this and these tips, so if they provide some kind of value on top of what they post, then we may let that stay in, because the main purpose is to make sure that group members are gaining new knowledge and getting value from being in that group.
Totally. I mean, the rule I have in my group, the first rule I have is mutual respect.
Yeah.
In other words, no infighting, no coming to blows over anything. You can play the ball, but not the man. So you talk about the topic, but you don't get personal.
Yeah, exactly. It's well, we had several personal sort of dialogues, and we had some personal issues and conflicts as well. But I think it's impossible to not have them when you are such a big group of 14,000 people. It's just, that's the way it is. It's like real life. So you can't avoid those.
No, indeed. And is the group, it's on Facebook?
Yeah, it's called Pat Flynn's First Kindle Book.
Right, okay. Well, we can put the link to
let me get the link for you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the thing is that most of the people are active on Facebook, so it makes sense to have any group that you're going to create on Facebook as well. As Annie said, a private group is best, because then you can control who comes into the group and you can oversee what's going on. And if you put together a set of rules at the beginning, to which the owners of the group agree and the admins agree, then you just have to carry out those rules fairly amongst your members. But it is an excellent place for people to help each other, because it's not just, when you start a group, you've got to, if we were starting from scratch, you have to post frequently to get people involved. But as time goes on, people start talking to each other, don't they?
Yeah, they are, and it's always kind of there are groups where I usually go to get information, because there are some groups who have been there for quite a while and who had many members from that certain field, and during that period so many questions have been asked and so many useful comments and links have been placed that all you need to do is it's become like yet another resource place for me, where I just search the group with keywords and come up with some things that, because when it's very active, you may even notice something and then forget, and later on you can't find it. So I'm just searching the thing, and there are several really useful groups I'm using for the Kindle books and authors, for podcasters, for entrepreneurs. So they're really kind of nice places where they can become your resource sources, and also a really good place where you can find like-minded people, where I usually find my future guests for the podcast, and things like that. So basically, it's very useful. Also, if you end up finding the good quality groups where everything is kind of very active, very engaged, and which provides knowledge and value, then it's really nice to be there.
I agree. A place where people actually get on with each other and help each other is a great place to be, because as you say, the search facilities on Facebook are first class. You can search any topic within the group. You can find out who said what when, and you can then approach them either within the group or outside the group. And certainly we've seen the development since Blab started of 3 Blab groups, the BTS Live, Blabaholics, and Blab Nation. And the Blab Nation group, of which we're both members, is a great resource for Blab. And I can recommend. I think you would too. Join the Blab Nation group to find out what's happening with Blab, because the people in there are very knowledgeable.
Yeah, definitely. It's always and usually it's very often we end up having this, whatever happened, for example, with Blab Nation, it happened organically and naturally, which is sort of, I don't think it was strategically planned thing, the result of which we are seeing in Blab Nation.
I agree. But the people who've come together in there are all very supportive of each other and helpful and knowledgeable. Which is good, because if you've got any questions, you can go and ask and get an answer virtually within the same day. And the thing is also about groups, as opposed to any other form of communication, is that the group is 24/7, isn't it? Yeah. Around the world.
Yeah, different time zones. Someone will be awake. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can get an answer at 2 o'clock in the morning. Right, we have our first question, and I'm going to bring it across. Is this?
Okay.
Right. Okay. Yes. Right. I shall read it, and then if you go first, I'll follow. What is your strategy for Facebook versus Twitter? Do they work together for you?
Well, no, I don't really have them together, to be honest. And I think I'm maybe a little bit different from what people advise. Many are usually sort of, concentrating on their Facebook pages and getting likes and promoting their stuff on Facebook pages. I haven't done so, to be honest, because I have my page, but I realize that it's yet another place where I need to put content, and which will take additional time, and which I have to monitor and control and stuff like that. So it's there, but it's not as if I'm doing anything there. But I'm using my profile. It's my personal profile, but since I'm not putting anything as personal as, I wouldn't want anyone who doesn't know me to know. Yeah. I'm pretty open. It's an open profile. I accept almost all friend requests, and as I said, I'm posting things related to my podcast, to myself, to such extent that I'm okay with that, because I already have like over 1,200 friends who are not really friends, and most of them I've never met. So I'm fine with that. So I'm basically using my Facebook page profile like similar to Facebook page, maybe in that respect, but I really love connecting with people one-on-one and realizing who they are. Like, I am having this crazy thing that I'm doing periodically. Since, as I said, in my friends list, there are many people I've never even heard about. I'm randomly picking 3 people a day, and I'm just connecting with them to see who they are and why did they decide to friend me at some point. So maybe they've done it half a year ago. I don't know when exactly, but it's kind of, if I've never interacted with those people before, I randomly just pick 3 if they are online. Just I sent them a direct message and we start chatting. So basically, I'm having a big list of friends on Facebook, but I'm trying to keep in touch and to know who they are, because most probably they are either my podcast listeners, or they've seen me on Blab, or they have visited my website. So those are the people I want to know who they are, what they do, what they like, what they don't like about my content and stuff like that. So I'm really about keeping in touch with them a lot. As to Twitter, actually, I have to admit I'm automating most of my tweets. So what I'm doing is I'm using a plugin which is called Healey. So what it does, it tweets out my previous posts on my blog. And the way my posts are done, usually they are my podcast episodes. So it tweets out the headline, which is usually I structure it so that it shows what it is about and shows the benefit of the episode, like, I don't know, how to publish beautiful books, for example, or something like that. And if I'm interviewing someone who is on Twitter, I usually put after the headline with and the handle of the person. So also what I'm doing is I'm putting tags for each blog post, which is each podcast episode. I'm having hashtags for Twitter, and I'm using hashtagify me usually, or right tag, to come up with the tags which are most popular and which are kind of, very relevant to my niche, which is self-publishing and Kindle books and stuff like that. So what I'm doing is I'm putting 3 tags per post, which later on become hashtags. So what this automatic plugin does, you put the frequency of the, how many tweets you want it to tweet every day, and it randomly picks up your blog posts and it tweets it out. So by the way I've done it, in the tweet, it has the headline, it has the handle of your guest, so your guest is notified and his followers see that too, and it has the 3 important hashtags, because it pulls it out from your tags of the past. So basically that's like all completely automated. But I'm once or twice a day, I'm checking the Twitter to make sure that whoever mentions me or whoever has sent anything to me, I do reply. So that's like the minimum, participation in Twitter, but it keeps active. It's good. I have much more followers on Twitter than on Facebook, to be honest. And I think that being on Blab helps grow your Twitter following as well.
Yeah, I agree. Once I used to tweet, and then the tweet would go to Facebook, coming back to Tim's question as well. And basically my logic a couple of years ago was that my audience on Twitter is different from my audience on Facebook. But it turns out that's not true. It's the same people seeing the same post twice.
Oh, yeah.
So I disconnected the two, and now all the posts on Twitter are independent. The thing on Twitter is that a tweet only has a limit. Well, it has a limited life. If you send out a tweet, if anybody's online, they will see it. If they come in later in the day and you're in one of their lists, they will see it.
Yeah. But
a tweet will only last for 1 or 2 days at most, if you track it through the Twitter analytics. Whereas Facebook, as you said earlier, Facebook is a place for getting to know people, to have conversations. And your posting on there tends to be more personal than it is on Twitter. Right, so as we both have their uses, and we're on to our next question. And this one is definite for you. I'll read it for you. Do you use LinkedIn to find podcast guests as well? It's a good place to look.
Well, I mean, I'm using LinkedIn to find guests only if I can't find them anywhere else, to be honest, because I mean, usually how I find guests, I'm kind of, since I'm in this sphere of self-publishing and book marketing and things like that, I'm usually, reading that type of things. I'm usually connecting with people who are in that sphere anyway. So if something interesting happens, most probably I will see that blog post or article, or I will hear it from someone. And what I'm doing is, while it's really fresh, while everyone is talking about that, I'm trying to find the hero of the article, let's say. So what's happening, for example, just, a half a year ago, there was an article about Mark Dawson, who is a fiction writer, who is writing fiction series. And in Forbes, there was an article about him because he made $450,000 in 1 year, just purely by selling his self-published books on Amazon. So this Forbes article went viral, everywhere I went, on Facebook and Twitter, and when I spoke with people about the thing, everyone mentioned it. So what I did was I found the guy. I don't remember either on Facebook or on Twitter, one of them, and I connected with him and we scheduled an interview. So if I couldn't find him neither on Facebook nor Twitter, I would most probably go to LinkedIn as the last resource to see, where he is, or his website, obviously his contact form. But usually what works best for me is if I can find some way to connect with them directly. So LinkedIn is good if in case they are active there and in case they check their messages. So if you can send them an invite or, message them and they can see it, it works. But my experience shows that there are many, especially in my field, like writers who are not in the business field. So they are not really into checking LinkedIn and using it very actively. For fiction writers, for example, it doesn't work really well. For nonfiction writers who are also speakers, who are also professionals in their fields, it works a bit better because they are kind of using it for their everyday life anyway. So it depends who you're looking. For some, LinkedIn may work. For some, it may not work at all. It depends who this person is and how his LinkedIn usage is.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. So that's that's result. I mean, it is a useful resource, is LinkedIn, isn't it? But it's a bit more impersonal.
Well, I mean, what I have found actually, for guests, not so much, but to tap into new audience and to get people on your list, LinkedIn groups work very well. Because LinkedIn groups seem to be much stricter. So there is no spam so much. They don't allow so much spam in there. And if you manage to talk to the admins, or if you manage to write your message so that it's not spammy, you provide some value and then you say, okay, if you want to know more, there is a free resource, you can check it out. Maybe you can get away with that. And if you do, then your post is really visible because since there are no such noise like in Facebook groups, then, once you pass through, then your message will be visible. So at some point, I did few experiments and I've gained quite a lot of people to my lead magnet and eventually email list just purely from LinkedIn.
Brilliant. Okay. Right. If anybody has questions, then please fire them in, as Tim has been doing. If anybody wants to come on camera, then you're more welcome to do so. We started discussing about groups and how useful they can be, as opposed to, in addition to email lists, and a great resource for knowledge and finding out things and getting on with like-minded people. So do you prefer the Facebook groups or the LinkedIn groups?
Well, for interaction, Facebook groups. For specifically getting into targeted audience, then LinkedIn groups are better, they're filtered better in some sense, and it's easier to keep up with those groups because, as I said, they seem to be much stricter, so there is less noise and you can see the things more. But if it's for creating connections and interacting with people, for me Facebook works better. But maybe it's just me, I don't know.
No, I think there's a different atmosphere on Facebook as opposed to LinkedIn. LinkedIn appears to be a more business-like, and I can understand why. But Facebook groups succeed because they're informal, because people do pitch in and get to know each other. And if you want to start a Facebook group, it takes about 30 seconds. Then it takes a lifetime from there, because growing a group and keeping it going takes effort in the first few months of starting it, because you have to get people involved. You've got to let them know the rules, and basically once you've done that, then the group tends to settle down and you have an active group of friends. Start off with friends, yeah.
Mm.
Start in a group. Start with people that you know, and then let them invite their friends, and grow it that way.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now we come to the second half of this session before we invite people in questions, and that is, I noticed the other day that you are offering training on Blab.
Yeah.
Would you like to tell us a little bit more about it? Because it is, I mean, this technology is going to be so big.
I'm surprised
it's not
you
free.
mentioned this, because I usually don't promote that course. I made it, but it's just there. It's, yeah. I mean, I launched it and then I had to move, so it's kind of, it stayed there as it was, and yeah. So, well, I mean, when I got involved with Blab, I actually received really good results with it. Just, I did a 2-month experiment. I mean, I just tracked the results from me being on Blab for 2 months. And those were the 2 months when I was relatively free and had more time to play around and to be on other people's Blabs and to do my own, and also to record some of my podcast interviews on Blab and then, transfer them into a podcast. So, three very important things happened to me thanks to Blab. Apart from the fact that I hated video, and before Blab, only, very loyal podcast listeners had seen me, and only once, and it was my podcast 1-year anniversary event, which I did on Google Hangouts. That was the first and the only one time that few people just saw me on video. I hated videos. I've never been on those. I tried 2-3 times a Periscope. It felt terrible, so I left that too. So what Blab did to me was actually overcome this thing and not really be so tense on video. So that was like the most important thing for me personally. But later on, I realized that what happened was, as I said, my Twitter followership grew very fast. It was very easy to grow audience on Blab itself, because Blab is relatively new and people here aren't many and the shows aren't too many, and especially in your niche, the competition is not too big, so it's easier to stand out, as opposed to if you start a blog, for example, or if you open a Facebook page or whatever it is. So I sort of, became visible in this place. And I also had people come to my website, so I increased my list quite substantially. And the last thing was, I gained few clients just purely by being on, because they saw me on someone else's Blab or on my Blab. So what I realized was that Blab is, if you use it strategically, and if you use it for your brand or for your business, then you can use that platform in order to grow your audience and grow your business. So what I created was, I sort of, I went back to all these documented things about what I've done so far and what results I've got. So I came up with a course which is not, it covers part of the technical stuff, but it's not really about the technical stuff. What I'm covering more is about, how to position yourself so people know what you are about, and, how to create your brand in a sense that, when you are on Blab, they know what to expect, they know who you are, they know what your business is, what you are, involved in, and things like that. So, how to make sure you have this image of yourself the way you want it, and how to communicate that message of your image so people know who you are and what you are about. It covers what kind of, where to find your audience on Blab, where to look, how to find them, and things like that. Like the tactics of how I was kind of checking out and following, how to make sure that this audience, this potential audience of yours, which you are interested in, notices you and becomes your audience eventually on Blab, what kind of content you should create, what type of content it should be there, and also how you can repurpose your content and use it for other things like the podcasts and, for your blog and, for all these other things. So you don't really feel like you're wasting your time, or you are specifically doing one piece of content for Blab and you're spending this 1 hour and that's it. So it's more like, a strategic thing in terms of, it's more like, I guess, personal branding and audience building thing, like how to use Blab for those things, rather than, how to become a host, how to make the other person a co-host, and how to create. I mean, I cover that. Yeah. Of course, it's right there, it's covered. But what I'm mainly focusing on is more like strategic things, and Blab being one of the relatively new platforms where I think it's just, it's the right time to get into before it's too crowded.
Indeed, I agree. It's totally the right time to get involved. And as you say, a structured approach that you've outlined is the best way to do it. Because if you just walk on here and you start a show and you don't tell anybody and you've no audience, then it won't work, will it? You've got to have an approach. You've got to get people involved in what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are many people who are here just spending time and watching Blabs and, fooling around, which is fine if that's what they want to do. But, if we are looking at this strategically, and if they view Blab as part of their communication platform or as part of their marketing channel, then it should be an integrated part of their whole business strategy. So, and it's always a matter of balance. I mean, it's always, there are two extremes we are seeing on Blabs. One extreme is just people who fool around and, just spend and kill time, which is fine. And the other extreme is like these people who are, I don't know, either coaches or, people who are like, trying to get clients. And then their sole purpose is just to gain a client from their Blab show. So what they do is they're very salesy and very aggressive. And that's the other extreme, which I don't think is effective, because, if you are too pushy, you will push people away. So, and unfortunately, we have seen many people from both groups say yes. So.
That's very true, but it's also a place where if you have a product to promote, you can do it. I did a session at 2:00 today with Colin Innes of Thrive. Now, Thrive are based in Leicester, which is about 180 miles up the motorway from us, and they have a Twitter application which is designed to drive engagement. Because the thing on Twitter is most people broadcast. What they don't do fully monitor their audience. Now, through a combination of search, lists, and messaging, they brought together a piece of software which is wonderful. And what happened was that Colin came onto one of our Blabbing for Britain about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I spotted him in the audience and I said, would he like to be interviewed? Well, he came on today at 2:00. And he now is in a situation where he's got people who saw the Blab, who are trying out his software, and we're doing another one in 2 weeks' time to speak to people in the States. Wow. So the structured approach does mean that you can actually bring your product or service to Blab and get people talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, as I said, if you find the right balance, then, it will sound really nice. It will work. And, it will be really, really good in terms of, for example, on Blab, for the first time in my life, I actually saw my listeners. Which is really nice, because sometimes you have a feeling that you are talking, by yourself to a microphone. And, although you see the statistics, you're not very sure, you don't know who is listening. You sort of know, but you don't really so much. So when you put a face to this image and you see real people behind those numbers, it's always kind of, very heartwarming.
Brings everything to life. Right. Okay. Well, we've covered 2 topics so far. If anybody likes to join us on camera, you're more welcome to do so. But for the most, shall we end the recording for now and just?
Yeah.
Shall we think? Yeah. Okay. Right. I'm going to pause the recording